So this afternoon I wanted to try again to take some wildlife photos here in Australia, and I arrived to this location a few hours ago, and a big thanks to Dwight Payton for giving me the recommendation to try it here. And what I immediately noticed was that the birds were a bit shyer than in other places I have been to the last couple of days, probably because it's a bit more isolated, whereas in cities they're a bit more used to people. So usually I like to just if I spot a bird, slowly approach it, maybe try to sneak upon it and try to take the pictures like that. But I realized that this might not work so easily here because the birds are a bit shy. And additionally, I didn't want to go through the tall grass because it's Australia and I'm a European. I actually don't know what kind of snakes could be here, so I just want to be on the safe side. So what I decided to do is a more safari-based approach. I'm in the camper van now and I'm just driving along the dirt roads, and I was starting to look a bit at the dead trees if I can find some birds that are perched there, maybe which locations are good for a bit later, because now it would just be boring against the blue or whitish sky. But I think in a few hours when the sun is getting lower, this could give for some, or could make some nice backlit shots. And for now my hope was that maybe in these tiny shrubs or the small dead wood that is laying around, I might spot a parrot or something else that is a bit lower that I can already photograph. However, what I spotted just 2 minutes ago was a bunch of kangaroos, and I tried to take some pictures out of the car, and this has worked for me quite well, for example with moose in Scandinavia or with songbirds in Spain. So I thought I will also try it here with some wildlife and give you some tips along the way. When driving along this dirt road, I saw a lizard on the side of the road, so I stopped the car and I got out to take some pictures. And my first idea was to get as low as possible, because in the background there is some nice purple flowers and I wanted to include them in the background. And obviously the lower I go with the lens, the more of these flowers I can include and the less of the street we see in the picture, and I think it doesn't look so nice to include the street. So that's why I try to go as low as possible. I often use my tilt screen for this. It just makes it a bit easier to work with these low angles, and I don't need to lie on the road and get dirty and potentially scratch myself all over the place. The problem that I encountered here, and I was already aware of this or kind of afraid of it, is to have some heat haze. Heat haze is basically if different layers of air rise from the ground and don't mix well, and then you have this typical heat haze that you see on hot summer days, and this means that the image most likely will not get sharp anymore. It's not a problem if you shoot with wide-angle lenses, but if you shoot with telephoto lenses, such as with this 600mm, it can become a problem. And usually the problem is especially pronounced if you shoot over long distances and if you shoot close to the ground. So 2 tips to reduce heat haze is to take a higher level or higher shooting height. And this gives you a steeper angle, which I don't like so much, but in some situations it can work quite well. Here this was not an option for me, but you see in these 2 examples, the one with the low angle looks much better, but if we zoom in it's really blurrier, whereas the other shot on the right with the higher perspective where I was just standing is quite sharp, but it doesn't look as good. So that's the only difference between these 2 images. However, I still managed some other sharp shots afterwards, and this was with reducing the distance. In this case I still kept my 600mm but walked a bit closer. Another idea could be to use a shorter focal length if you have one and if the animal is cooperative. Finally, what also helped a lot was just to take basically many images, not necessarily a burst of 40 images in a row, but over a few minutes, because sometimes it can be that there is a slight breeze of air, a little bit of wind coming, and it kind of transports this warm air away and mixes the air kind of smoothly again, and then you don't have a problem with heat haze for a few shots. So this really helps. Just wait, maybe if a cloud comes, if you feel there's some wind coming for even a few seconds, take a few shots then, and then hopefully you get one sharp image in the end. Heat haze can occur over a lot of different surfaces. I had it over water, I had it over meadows, but usually these kind of concealed surfaces like asphalt or even dirt roads are more problematic because they heat up much more. So what can help is to reduce the shooting distance over this surface. So to give you an example, the lizard is a bit farther behind, but if it would be just here, if I shoot somehow just like from 20 meters from this side and then shoot over the dirt road, that I have 2 meters of dirt road and the rest is meadow, I will most likely get a sharper image than if I shoot like 20 meters along the dirt road where everything is dirt road and I have more space to heat up. That's why it's also a bad idea actually to shoot over the hood of your car, even though for some animals it might be intriguing because the animals don't see you as easily. But the hood of the car, at least if you drive an internal combustion engine car, will heat up a lot and will most likely get you blurred images. If you want more tips about this type of subjects, then please check out my ebook, A Guide Towards Better Bird Pictures. So I just saw 2 kangaroos maybe 30 meters away from the road with the light in my back, so the kangaroos being directly lit from the front, and maybe you can see it now, it's getting sunnier, but just before I actually had a cloud. This meant that I had very diffuse light and a soft light, and I found it beautiful with this grass that is a bit yellowish. And I tried to take some first shots from the car, but the perspective was kind of too high. I could not really blur the foreground and background as much as I wanted. So I actually got out of the car. I very carefully opened the door, and I'm kind of seeking shelter behind the door so that the kangaroos don't see me so well. They see mostly the car door and maybe a bit of my lens, but not too much of myself. And here I'm having a quite low angle. I don't want to shoot from the ground because then there would be too much grass in front of the kangaroos. But this here is a kind of, for me, a very good compromise, and I managed to get some really nice shots. I usually try to take several pictures because they move the ears a lot, and this is also the case for alpine ibex, for chamois, for roe deer and many other mammal species, that they move the ear almost constantly, and I prefer if they're kind of aligned and facing myself. Again, just if you do something like this, be sure that you have a good view of the road and you are in a safe position to stop and stay here. So one important aspect is of course to consider your safety and the ones of others on the road. So if it's a busy street where you can drive 100 kilometers an hour, obviously just don't stop randomly at the road, don't stay in the road. There I only stop if I don't have anybody behind me, and then I try to move to a safe space on the side of the road that I don't block other traffic. Here it's a bit a different situation. This is a gravel road. I can see at least 1.5 kilometers straight ahead and a few hundred meters behind. And in the last 2 or 3 hours, basically since I came to this place, I have not seen a single car. So staying here just a bit on the road should not be a big issue. Also, the speed is limited to 30 kilometers an hour, so that should be quite fine. Then what I usually like to do is keep all my stuff close by. So I have my 600mm lens attached to my camera here in the middle of the car. It's quite a big car with my private car, so I just have it on the passenger seat. And if I'm photographing with a friend, again, it doesn't work in this camper that only has 2 seats, but usually I prefer if I sit in front, my friend sits in the back, or the other way around. But then we have it a bit easier that we can both shoot in both directions, left and right. And actually we then usually more aim to shoot both out of the driver's window, just because here I have much more flexibility. I can move a bit back or front and can really use a wider space, whereas on this side I'm very limited of what I can do, and I really need to stretch myself and often use the screen and not the viewfinder to take pictures. Apart from that, I try to have my tele extender kind of close by. It's maybe not the best way to store it like this, but it's quite convenient because it's fast. I also try to have a spare battery close by just in case I run low. And I then can do a lot of stuff from the car. Usually the animals don't bother so much as long as you stay in the car. I recommend to roll down the windows already from the beginning, and the whole time you're driving around, keep the windows down. Because from my experience, when you drive around, you stop and then roll down the windows, the bird takes off because he sees kind of the window going down and gets scared. So I recommend keeping the windows down, even if it's a bit colder, for example, in spring or autumn. It can also help to avoid problem with heat haze, because if you have a big temperature difference between the inside and the outside, let's say you warm your car to 20 degrees, outside it's 5 degrees, you open the window, the warm air gets out, and then you can actually get blurry shots just because of that. Especially in this camper, I obviously have a bit a higher shooting position, and this can sometimes be really annoying, especially if I have a ground dwelling bird or something. I think it looks really terrible and I try to get out of the car. if I do so, I usually try to enter on or exit on the other side. So I exit over the passenger side if this is possible, and then kind of sneak around the car so that the bird or whichever animal is there doesn't see me actually leaving the vehicle. And sometimes this helps that the bird or kangaroo or whatever doesn't detect you. Now for some other situations, especially if the animal is a bit farther away or if it's a bit a taller animal, if it sits on a perch, this higher perspective can actually be beneficial. Or the same if you have like really tall grass, it's actually nice if you're not too low, otherwise you might block the actual animal with the grass in the foreground. As you can probably see behind me, the sun has set a few minutes ago, and I was not very lucky with the cockatoos or with the galahs that I wanted to photograph on these dead trees against the sunset, because there were plenty during the day, but in the evening not so many anymore, and the ones that were there were always on the wrong side of the road, so not in backlit. And I already had some cool images in my mind when they kind of opened their crest on the head, but anyways, I got some nice kangaroo pictures. I tried to shoot them a bit into backlit, underexposing, that you really only see the outline of the kangaroo and this fur kind of glowing a bit yellow orangey, and I had some mosquitoes and flies that were kind of out of focus, which I think looked really cool. And once the sun actually had set and we just saw a bit of colors in the sky because of the few clouds that are there, I also tried to include a bit of the sky into the image, which is always a bit challenging in terms of the dynamic range. And what I try to do here is first lower the ISO a bit, because generally speaking, the lower the ISO, the more dynamic range you have. Of course, if you want to be a bit picky, it depends on the camera where you have the highest dynamic range. So for my R5 Mark II, it has the highest at 100, and then the second highest at 800 ISO. For the R5, it was 100 and 400. You can look this up for your camera, but anyway, in general, better have lower ISO, then you have more dynamic range. And then I usually try 2 or 3 different exposures, because sometimes when the overexposure warning shows me that the small fractions of the sky are blown out or overexposed, often I can still kind of recover them in Lightroom or Capture One, because the RAW still captures a little bit more detail in the highlights than the JPEG preview that I see on the camera. Anyway, I think that's it for tonight. I will start cooking some dinner in the van very soon, and then try again tomorrow morning, hoping that there will not be too many clouds in the sky for a nice sunrise. And if you want to learn more about bird photography, please check out my ebook, A Guide Towards Better Pictures. I linked it down below.